Hello again, everyone. Today I am going to be testing out some new and interesting dip pens. So this one is by Drillog, which was part of a Kickstarter campaign. I don't know if and when these will be offered again, but I have a feeling they will be offered again if you're interested. I just recently got it. I did a little bit of testing. I actually started this video with just this one and had some issues and had to kind of correct for that and part of it's user error, but I wanted to refilm this because I felt like I wasn't really doing this dip pen justice. So I'll show you some of my takeaways from that original testing and do some additional testing for you today. So I got the 0.5 nib. So as you can see, this is a stainless steel nib, which has these little grooves here, which holds onto ink. And then the tip itself is actually very small. It is the smaller of the two offerings that they had. I think the other one was either 0.7 or 0.8, so it was a little bit bigger. I opted to get the smaller size because you can't really get this small of a size in like a glass dip pen. So I thought that this would be unique in that sense, and you can get a finer line. And I really wanted to get it for ink sketching under watercolor. So one of the inks I have here is a waterproof document deatramentus ink to test that out and show you how it works. That was actually one of the inks that worked the best in my prior test. And I chose a drier ink, which is also a chromo shading ink, this Sailor Neko Yanagi. This one I could not get to work with this ink at all. Or with this pen at all. We'll see. These other two worked well. This is Diamine Seize the Night and Diamine All the Best, which is actually a sheener and a shimmer. Both of these were from the Diamine Inkvent calendar for 2021. And the other nib that I have here today is from a company called Kakimori. And this was significantly less expensive than the Drillog, which, you know, you're paying for quality of materials with this and the fact that it's a Kickstarter, so they're trying to get started, all of that. And the handle itself was actually very nice, and I'm very glad I got that color. This one will work with just about any dip pen holder, I believe. So you can get just the nib. They tend to be sold out a lot in different places. You can also use the comic holder. I got the cheapest one that was offered by Kakimori, but you could just use, let's see, you could just use this, which is a Tachikawa comic nib holder. This will work just as well and is definitely less expensive. So I also purchased, let's take a little bit to get those in and out. This is the brass one, by the way. It also comes in stainless steel. Brass tends to be a little bit more soft than the stainless steel. And it also comes in a glass nib pen attachment here, which I have on order, but I didn't get. But I assume that that will work very similarly to other glass dip pens. So today I'm just going to be testing these metal ones. So I do have a little holder here, but I can't hold both of them on there, obviously. And I did also have an ink incident with a different ink that I'm not going to be testing out anymore just because it got all over my table. But I have a shop towel, a blue shop towel, which the fiber is not very pilly on this, so it won't come off onto the metal pieces here. I do have some water off to the side. So again, I'm going to try both pens with the Neko Yanagi first. I was not able to get it to work with the Drillog pen. Let's see if we can get it to work. I also discovered that a single sheet of paper directly onto my Galen writing pad worked better than working off of the paper in a pad. This is Tomoe River paper. I think the extra cushioning under the pad made it a little bit more difficult for the ink to flow off of that pen. So let's see. I'm going to try each of these pens with each of these inks. So I gave a little dip. And, oh, hey, what do you know? It worked a little bit. So, so I think the issue with this particular ink, So there's, as you can see, there's plenty of ink up in the little grooves here, but I think that it is just too dry to flow with any regularity. But it seems like I can actually get a little bit more flow than I was before. And I also stopped that other video because I had a real feeling that this nib needed to be primed a little bit. Priming basically just, you know, get it warmed up a little bit. But this is a drier ink and it does seem to have a little bit more flow issues. But this is the Sailor. And let's see if it goes slower. And this is actually better than before. So you'll know that that's Neko Yanagi. I'm going to try the same ink with the other metal nib here. And it actually rinses out really easily. Nothing gets stuck in there and stays in there. So that's actually quite nice about this nib. All right, so we're going to move on to the Kakimori brass nib. And one of the really cool things about the brass nib is the flow changes depending on the angle in which you hold it, and you can actually get these really wide lines, and you definitely get better flow off of this. If I wanted to just do regular writing, I could do there. And then if I wanted to do some thicker sketching lines, do it here. And there is still quite a bit of ink up in there. So let's go ahead and rinse that off. This one does seem to hold onto ink a little bit more than the Drillog nib, but it still cleans out. And if I were going to be using chromo shading inks like this Neko Yanagi is, I would probably be more inclined to use this particular nib just because, as you saw, there were some flow issues. Oops, it's still wet because there's so much put down. And you can't really see the shading, but here, you know, it comes out really well when you're having a broader line there. Okay, so let's go ahead and try the document ink with these two pens, or dip pens here. So in my prior test, this worked really well with the Drillog nib. So you do kind of have to get it going a little bit. So this is the De Atramentis, but fast writing seemed to work fine. Document Urban Gray. And you really can, I'm just gonna do like a loose tree here. You really can get quite a nice thin line with this, which is great. That's kind of what I wanted it for. I wanted to be able to sketch quickly and get a very fine line, because I do like to sketch with a thinner line. You cannot get a varying line with this. You're just going to get the 0.5, and I think that I might have messed the ink flow up there by doing that. But this you could probably sketch for quite a while because this holds a lot of ink, and it works really well for this purpose. I was really happy with that. Let's see if we can get that going again. At this point, oh no, there we go. There's still plenty of ink. You just can't get out ahead of the ink flow with this pen because it is so fine, it's not going to flow as fast as if it were in something else. So let's go ahead and try this De Atramentis document ink with this Kakimori nib. So this you would be able to sketch with as well, but you'd be able to get a variety of quality of line, which is kind of fun. Here, let's try and do the same kind of loose pine tree type thing. You might go through the ink a little bit faster with this one, but you're going to get a very different quality of sketching line than you would with this. And but then you can still do the drawing line. Okay. And you can see there is some ink stuck up in those ridges. The other one comes clean pretty much completely. So, so that is something to keep in mind, the difference between these two. And this one, because it is brass, it will patina and stain over time. So let's see, I'm going to dip that in the water one more time, try and get a little more out of there. All right, so let me go ahead and close this bottle up. So then let's go to the Seize the Night. So Seize the Night is generally a pretty wet ink. And it's a standard ink, but it does have a little bit of sheen to it, so it could be a little bit sticky, but it seems to flow pretty well off of this pen. Let's see. Let's get it started here. I think you really kind of need to, yeah, there we go. So this is Diamine, Seize the Night. And I think this would work perfectly well too, just for writing. Yeah, once you get it flowing, you can get it going pretty good. So really, wetter inks are going to work better with this finer nib. But it actually flows pretty fast out of this, which is great. The drier the ink, the more trouble you're going to have with that. So let me go ahead and rinse this one off. And one really nice thing is that this does not, the ink does not cling in there and get stuck and stain. So that's nice. At least not at this point. It might once it's been around for a while. Okay, so let's do the Seize the Night with the Kakimori nib. I didn't put a whole lot in there. So you could do regular writing, and then you can do these more expressive broad lines, which I like. I like to be able to do that. You'll be able to see more nuances in each individual ink. Again, you know, you are going to get more staining with this one. Okay, so one last ink, which is this, which is All the Best. It was the finale in the Diamine Ink Vent calendar for 2021. This has shimmer and sheen. So I thought it would be a good one to test to see how well these pens can handle something that might get a little gunky and have some shimmer. It actually, because Diamine is such a wet ink brand generally, there are some exceptions, that this one works really well. So this is Diamine, oops, and I wonder if that's the shimmer kind of clogging things up. Let me dip again. Oh, it's interesting because this word, oh, there we go, okay. Diamine, All the Best. All right. So I actually think it is quite amazing to be able to get such a fine tipped flowy pen that doesn't really seem, I'm actually dipping all of that because it got kind of stained, that will work with all of these different inks. So I did dip all the way past the handle, so this, it's a little screw in unit, so I'm going to try and get the water out. Doesn't look like it really got in there. I think it was more like on the lip there. And I'm going to go ahead and cover that one up. And then I'm going to do one last test with the Kakimori nib. So I definitely think that these are not necessarily must-haves. Not must-haves, but they are kind of fun. And for what I'm going to be using these for, like I'd probably be more likely to use this one for testing out new fountain pen inks, because I can do broad swatches like that. And then the other one I plan to do use more for sketching, which it seems like it will work really well for. So it just depends on what you want them for, what you'd be using them for. And yeah, this one is definitely staining a little bit in that brass nib. I am trying to get out as much as I can and kind of get into the little crevices here with my fingernail. Just because I don't want there to be buildup in here that might prevent ink flow. And as far as how long these will last, I have a feeling that this is not going to be as durable, partially because of it's brass and will patina and all of that, than this one, which I think is stainless steel and should pretty much last forever. I mean, I don't think it should get dull or anything. So you're paying for durability, you're paying for quality of materials with this one. And assuming you can find these somewhere, these are just kind of fun to play with. All right, well, that is all I had for you today. I hope that was helpful to kind of show you some options that are out there for this kind of fun stuff. I think I showed you that you can put these nibs in just a standard nib holder like this. But this you have to have, I mean, you have to have a machined handle that is going to handle this little screw-in unit. And they come in, as far as I know, only 2 sizes at this point, but who knows if they'll offer other variations in the future. But I'll put some links down below so that you can take a look at those for yourself. Here you can see very thin line with that Drillog nib, and then some really fun broader lines with the other. You can see the shimmer coming out with that. You can definitely see the shading here. So different nibs for different purposes that do different things. All right, well, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Feel free to subscribe to future videos on my channel, and I hope to see you next time. But in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye with my inky fingers.